Hello, welcome to our show. We've got some awesome footage to share with y'all this time. We were out at Lake Pillsbury on Tuesday. We're here with Matt Lefevre from MendoFever. At this point, I'm going to switch it over to Matt and take the lead, Matt.
Dylan, thank you. My name is Matt Lefevre, and as you stated, I run MendoFever, a Mendocino County-based news entity. I'm lucky to be sitting here with citizen journalists Dylan Pankow and Pepper Clark, and I'm excited to be discussing their sojourns into the cinder and smoke of the August Complex. Currently, the August Complex is 860,000 acres. It's the largest fire in the state of California's history, and it's larger than the state of Rhode Island. On Tuesday, Dylan, Pepper, you guys went into the Mendocino County National Forest, and you're here to tell your story. My understanding is you guys entered via the M1. Maybe you can start your story there.
Sure. Yeah, we thought it was after looking at the CalTopo, the hotspot maps, uh, and judging escape routes and different routes in, factoring in smoke and all these different variables. We decided that the M1 was the safest bet to go in through Upper Lake, I believe it is. Um, that road is in really bad condition. On the way in, though, through Ukiah, you could see in the distance the smoke was settling in the valleys, and it was almost like we were heading towards the Bay Area. The smoke was pouring over the mountain ridges and in between the little valleys, like fog does down in San Francisco. And once we started to climb up the M1, it started to get thicker and thicker and thicker until we got to about the apex and started to head down in there, and it got really, really thick. Fortunately, we had the air conditioning on and on recirculate, and we could still smell it. It was quite a journey, especially because on the way in, we were heading in through post burn of the Mendocino complex fire 2 years ago. That area had already burned, and ironically enough, on the way in, there were trees that had just fallen on the road. There was still bark and pieces of branches laying on the road, probably had fallen over the night before. So that's one of the dangers that we're going to face for quite a while out there in the Mendocino National Forest and all the other places that burn. But it was just kind of an eerie sense going into that.
Maybe you could give our viewers a sense of what we're seeing in the video footage currently.
So currently, what we're seeing is M1 is directly behind us, where you would head up Whole Mountain Road toward. I guess there's a campground back in there. And now we're heading towards the airstrip on the truck. Towards the right-hand side of the camera would be the Whole Mountain area that at this point looks like most of it is burned according to the hotspot maps. But as we know from the hotspot maps and from the burn area maps, just because it's within that zone does not mean that everything has burned. There are green islands that are still exist, and lots of them. There are sections of the forest that it just came through and perfectly cleaned out like a prescribed burn would do. It cleaned out all the fuels on the ground, all the ladder fuels, they're gone. It's perfect. Didn't touch the canopy. There's areas where nothing burned at all. There's still dry leaves on the ground. They never even got blown away. And then there are areas where all the ladder fuels got burned, and the wind must have been heavy enough to get it up into the canopy. I guess they call it a crown fire, and it just went through and uh, now you got nothing on the ground, and you've got these black sticks, standing, or trunks standing up in the air. What you're seeing now is the checkpoint as you're heading downhill into Lake Pillsbury. This was the checkpoint. I'm over. You can see me in my vest talking to a fish and wildlife warden. There's another one over there. You look on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see a couple of ambulances. There were a couple of more back in the bushes back in there. There were more down in the valley. There was a lot of medical aid down in there.
I appreciate the visual description, Dylan. As you progressed into the Mendocino National Forest, were you, other than fire personnel, did you see any other people documenting what was going on?
Not a single person doing what we were doing as far as media documenting what was going on, whether it be pictures, audio, or video. We didn't see any of that. We heard rumor a public information officer did come through while we were there, but we never saw him or her. So no, I don't. In my opinion, I don't see any coverage happening except for what the PIOs are posting on Facebook and the Mendo Forest, which they're not really posting much on the Forest Service website. Um, the personnel that I speak to, that I know personally, When I talk to them, they don't really see anybody on the roads out there other than people who aren't supposed to be there, like pot growers and fire personnel. That's pretty much what they're seeing out there right now. I've been hearing a rumor on the radio and in different articles that pretty much all of the arrests they're making and fines are unfortunately from pot growers that are growing where they should not be growing.
What is the Emerald Triangle and those cash crops, valuable for those individuals, I'm sure.
It is, but at the same time, we've
may-
got enough public land or private land that can be rented and leased. There is, forgive me, there's no excuse to be going out into our national forest and damaging the ecosystem and scaring people and so on.
For the purposes of sort of moving us into, you've painted a really clear picture of sort of the conditions you saw as you were entering. Could you describe maybe some of the fire personnel that you started to encounter as you were in the Mendocino National Forest, that Lake Pillsbury Basin?
Sure, you want to take this one?
Sure. I am not so, expertise at recognizing all the different officials and groups of people, but we did see a wide variety of people from a lot of different places. We encountered some firefighters from Colorado when we first got on the scene, and they filled us in on how many years they've been working for the wildland firefighting services, along with doing their structural firefighting on the regular basis. They also gave us some really good insight into what to expect as the day progressed in terms of weather conditions. At this point, you can see that as we get in that there's very little visibility. The sky is completely covered over with haze. Nobody could possibly think about doing any kind of aerial work in this conditions.
There's almost no wind either. If you look at the branches and the leaves, they're not moving.
Very still. And so when we arrived there was a lot of expectation in the air. People were standing around still in groups and discussing plans for later in the day. And as we were talking to the firefighters, we found out that they expected winds to come and clear the haze sometime around 1-2 o'clock. But in the meantime, they were taking wind measurements and reporting back. That was a fire service person reporting back and expecting to have more back burns set later on in the day by a couple different types of approaches, which we'll show you in the next sections here. But it is very striking in looking at this footage here, how low the visibility was when we first arrived and how quickly the conditions changed as they predicted.
Very quickly. My perception of fire personnel, like Pepper was just saying, they were from all over the country. We saw Alaska, we've seen Idaho, you name it. We've seen them all from all over the place. We saw a lot of operators, which would be excavators and bulldozer operators, a whole copious amounts of those. Lots of ground crews. We saw probably the highest number of pickup trucks, just basic Dodge trucks. And then you would see a whole lot of, or a fair number of, well, I guess we would call them fire trucks, but they all serve different purposes, and I'm sure there's a unique name for each one, but we'll call them fire trucks for sake of conversation. A fair number of those, but and then a whole lot of, I guess they're called tractor trailers, the big trucks we see hauling these bulldozers. There were a lot of those parked down there on the lake end of the airstrip where planes would start their landing. That's where they had, I guess, an incident command post. They're big, those big tower lights. They had tents set up. And there were a few vehicles parked inside there, but most of the vehicles were outside of that. We did notice a fair number of bathrooms around. People were pretty chill at first, so it seemed like maybe they were waiting for a briefing. And then as the day went on, crews started marching out. There was one point, I think it was around 3, that we saw 2 crews of probably 50 or more guys, or men and women, just like a military march. Just single file, walking along, heading straight into the burn.
So are you ready to move on to some visuals that describe some of the firefighters and what we saw as we got there?
Yeah,
I appreciate that, Pepper. It's my understanding that you guys maybe captured a firefighter driving a dozer. That sounds like kind of compelling footage.
That was when we first pulled up. Actually, we pulled up and we parked behind a red fire engine. I forget where they were from. The guy's originally from Oklahoma, but I don't know where he's from now. Oh, Colorado. They were from Colorado. And he was just giddy like a kid. And we're like, this is cool, but there's something behind this. And then we started listening because we were parked not very far away. One of the dozer operators had allowed him to operate his bulldozer. So this guy is a 20-year veteran firefighter of structure and wildland, had never operated a bulldozer. And so he said, well, can we get you on film running this? Because your excitement is really compelling to watch. And he said, sure, that'd be great. So we went ahead and brought over, yeah, there you go. So the bulldozer, we went over with him to the bulldozer, and we proceeded to put a GoPro on the windshield facing him. And then we put on, Pepper was walking around with a camera filming from the outside, and so was I. So we got this remarkable footage, and when we got home, the guy, this is the operator, the fireman right here you're seeing. He, the whole time he's in there, he's giving awesome commentary as to what he's doing and how excited he is, and he's telling us about how they enter the fire physically and all the, that situational awareness of being on slopes and the fire, and it's like, man, that's a lot for a person to have to fathom. But we have copious amounts of video that I cannot wait to share with everybody, from like this interview of him describing the bulldozers and how they're protected with the roll cage. The dozer owner was telling me about air filtration. Like, you can tell my excitement. We have so much to share. I just can't get it out fast enough.
Yeah, what a unique, cool circumstance. And it sounds like you got a really authentic moment. A lot of times these fire personnel are locked behind the public information officer sort of role. And I mean, you got really intimate. Where's this footage located for like a local who might be thinking about their whole mountain out there and trying to get some context?
If you look at the video right now, now there it is. So right now that's facing the M1, the camera. Behind us would be the airstrip shooting range and the active burn area. And then now it's panning more towards, well, now he's looking, with all the smoke.
The airstrip is on the left. You can barely see it. Or I should say the backstop for the shooting range is on the camera left. The airstrip is running.
Oh, there's the flag. That's a landmark that people could see even from Google Earth.
The airstrip is running along the horizon line.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And we also, go ahead, man.
This is such a significant landmark recreation area for Lake County, Mendocino County, all around. It's very recognizable, and I think important to give that context. I appreciate that.
The next piece of content or location a bit I'd give would be Oak Flat and Navy. Oak Flat Campground is really close also, and you can look that up on Google. And then if you look on Google and zoom out a little bit, you'll see the airstrip called, I think it's a Gravelly Valley airstrip.
Gravelly Valley.
It runs between the lake and Whole Mountain. You can see that too, and that's where we spent pretty much the entire day. And the one other thing we forgot to I think we kind of glossed over it, and we'll touch on it probably more. We also met while we were out there filming, a helicopter comes in, and we're like, this looks like a landing zone. We're out of here. So we literally went running out of the way, and then they landed nowhere near us. So we ended up letting them land, do their thing, and then they were just kind of talking to each other. So we approached them, and they said, well, this is what we're about to do. We don't have a whole lot of time because we have a meeting over here, but you're welcome to photograph anything you want of the helicopter. Just don't go inside or touch any buttons or knobs. And so we did just that. And we did a vlog of our own, talking about what we saw, we experienced, how we felt, so on and so forth. Once they were done with their briefing, they gave us about 30 seconds of describing what they were about to do. Firsthand, guy on video with excellent audio. Again, copious amounts. I can't wait to share it. I can't get it fast enough.
Here we see, we're walking.
Thank you, Pepper.
Yeah, we're walking down the Gravelly Valley airstrip, sort of walking and driving areas on each side. And now we're down toward the backstop where the shooting range action happens. This is a Forest Service crew member testing the wind measurements.
Speed and direction.
Speed, yeah. So he's got a little device and there's a ball bouncing up and down. He's going to keep in contact with the helicopter crew who lands a bit later to let them know when the conditions are clear enough and the winds are picking up to make it worth their time to come into the site. On this hillside behind, you see several different fires, just little spot fires here and there. Some of those resulted in trees falling down while we were on site. That was also another exciting moment. Here's a dust-busting water truck. In this moment, it's not spraying water, but generally throughout the day, it was circling the road areas to keep the dust down, constantly spraying water, just slowly.
Yeah, there's a road, for those that aren't familiar with the area, there's the airstrip down the middle, but on either side, the east and the west side, there's a road that goes in. It leads you into the shooting range and out of the shooting range back to the M1. He would just very slowly go up and down each side, spraying water to keep the dust down. But there were a few times we did notice him parked, which looked like he was parked near a little bit of a chimney smoke area, like he was staging to be able to put out a fire if it were to pick up, which did happen once that smoke started, or once the wind started picking up. Those little bits that were just little puffs of smoke, one of them just erupted into flames, and we could see it from 100 yards away, no problem.
Wow.
That tree a moment ago, when we were looking at the guy doing the wind check, there was a tree smoldering in the middle. I was fortunately several hundred feet away, but close enough that when it fell over, I could hear it, and the audio picked it up perfectly, and it just crash. And then, sure enough, another one happened a few minutes later, and the guys were like, "Hey, if you stick around till this evening, it's like a constant flow. You can just hear them falling." So that's another reason that we're going in together, is not only because it's good. I mean, I go in by myself, put my camera on a tripod, but then my back, I got no eyes behind my head. I can't see if a tree is going to fall. So it's good to go in and have a camera person to frame up the shot well, but also to watch your back. Flare up, tree, run, those kinds of things. So we're going in as a team for multiple reasons, and it's extremely important, especially after witnessing that stuff. It's a whoa, reality check.
Right.
Absolutely. Buddy system is vital out there. I'm thinking, it's my understanding you got footage of a ground crew starting a backburn.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, we're having a little bit of a technical issue with the second half of this. We had put together some of our video of the ground crew starting that backfire with drip torches. It was really impressive, and, technical difficulties.
Yeah, a drip torch, we learned.
Absolutely.
A drip torch is, if you look on the back of some of these trucks, they have these red canisters that look like oversized thermoses, like really good size. And in that is, I think they said 3 parts diesel, 1 part gasoline, and they light this giant wick, and then they tilt it over, and it spills a little bit out onto the ground, and you can see the drip, 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 and it's burning diesel fuel, basically. Diesel fuel burns longer than gasoline. Gasoline's more volatile. It just, boom, flash, it's up. But if you use mostly diesel fuel, the gasoline ignites the diesel, and then it burns longer than the gasoline and does a better job of igniting. But yeah, we watched them, and there's actually a guy that, there's 2 people that run that. One is the guy that has the dripper in his hand, and there's another crew boss person, I don't know their titles, that's telling him, okay, every 5 feet for the next 30 feet, I want you to go ahead and light it. Okay, hold on,
Wow.
and snuff it out, and they'll snuff it out. They'll let it go for a while, assess things. Okay, I want, let's do 2 or 3 over here. And it was really fascinating to watch them just pay attention to what was going on. There was one point where we're over in this area, and the wind picked up, and that oak tree you can see kind of being blocked by the pine tree. It just went up instantly, and it sounded like a waterfall, just a cascade. It was so much noise. It was crazy, and the heat, even though we were, I don't know, pretty good distance away, it was like, whoa, wow, that's pretty warm.
Yeah.
So that was pretty interesting. Again, it was an exciting day. When we pulled in, at first I was a little disappointed, like, oh man, I think we chose the wrong location. We can't see anything. There's nothing happening. No, these guys are all sitting around like taking break, because apparently they'd worked really late into the night. But then after about 20 minutes, it was like, oh, let's go film that. Oh, we get to film this? Oh,
and it's important to emphasize the purpose of the backburn is to control burn in such a way that meets the face of the uncontrolled wildfire and extinguishes it in that place where it's near sensitive structures and things that people care about, the boat dock and the campgrounds and so forth. The ultimate goal here is not to suppress all wildfires. Those are a natural part of the ecology. The goal is to manage and direct those away from any of those places that are, human habitations and structures, so on.
It sure looks like, from my uneducated perspective, and when I watch the burn map, or the hotspot maps and the burn maps, it looks like they're sending it the direction of the Mendo Complex fire over by Snow Mountain, because that's already burned. So over there, they can manage it a lot easier. The fuels are ground level. You can't really have a crown fire. Again, I'm no expert, but that would seem like a great place to send it. It already burned. And from what I can tell from earlier, it looks like it's pretty close to there. And if you look at the number of hotspots, they're really, really low right now. They're all pretty much yellow in this area right now instead of red.
Mhm.
I'm told you you have footage of helicopter being involved in that backburning
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. We have video of them. They're firing up their helicopter. That sound all the way to taking off, flying around, and then kind of cruising around. Unfortunately, even with our best lens, we were not able to physically get video of those little the devices they drop to. They say it in the video, and I failed to look it up. Go ahead.
I thought it was cool. It would be good to mention that we're talking about a couple different helicopter experiences that we had in one day.
Oh, there were, yeah.
First, there was the very small helicopter, nimble, small crew. It landed, and we were able to hear about this dispenser device that drops tiny ignition devices that look like little ping pong balls on the fire to help generate that backburn to try to suppress the fire in the dangerous area. So that was one exciting experience, but there was a whole nother segment where we got to see the large helicopters coming down and dipping into Lake
Chinooks,
Pillsbury.
Blackhawks, and Hueys. I
To
mean,
get
they were
water.
all over the place. The other thing that was kind of interesting to me when the PIO led us down to where they were, where we could photograph and film them dipping their buckets. I didn't realize how low the lake is. I have, in the 20-something years I've been going there, I've never seen the lake that low. They were having to fly over to the area. There's like a resort area where they have a bunch of docks for boats. They were having to fly all the way over there to get water. They weren't able to go to the, forgive me as I don't know my compass bearings there too well, but over by the, anyway, they had to fly further than I expected because the water level's so low.
So, you know, I'm curious about process. I'm curious about how you would gain access. As you stated, we're not having very much traffic back there other than fire personnel. You didn't describe any press. I haven't seen many other local press corps able to gain access or working to gain access. Tell us how you gained access to the disaster area.
That's been a huge challenge. I've been working on this for about 3-4 weeks now. I don't, forgive me as it's been so long, I've just lost track of time. I've spoken with sheriff's departments, multiple PIOs. I did have a public information officer join me on a live stream a few weeks ago, calling everybody, and I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say. It's not been easy whatsoever. You don't get any consistent answers. You don't get any sort of consistency. There's nothing in writing as a press policy that dictates you're allowed here, not there, you have to wear this, you're allowed to bring that. There isn't any.
Which are required by law.
So we're working with them to do our best to point out the laws so that we can get in here and get this information. Because what I've been conveying to them is that I know that they're all really busy and these public information officers are sharing information. It definitely are. But it's like a 30-second clip here and 2 pictures here. And that's not even on the daily. To me, when I'm out in the Mendocino National Forest, and if you go back, if you're a new viewer and you look through our channel, you'll see hundreds of videos here. And the vast majority of them are the Mendocino National Forest. To me, and I hope I'm speaking for the both of us, this is my home that we're watching right here on fire. The Mendocino National Forest is my second house. I don't own a second house. The forest is my house. So I'm dying to know what the condition of my house is. So we went to Lake Pillsbury. We've gone up to Stony Ford and head east on head west on FH7. We've been in that area too, just to learn and see what's going on with our house.
And, yeah.
Pepper, please.
I was going to circle back to the access issue. We know that as well-intentioned and well-prepared, knowledgeable local people with a desire to do this journalism, that we have the right to go in, but we also know it's important to respect the reality on the ground. We're all experiencing this turbulence due to COVID, and we found out directly from people that we spoke to who can't be named that situation is affecting personnel and staffing at every level throughout this incident. And I just think it's important to note that most of the people who are managing and working on this incident daily there are not from here. regionally, and not even from California necessarily. And California has some specialized laws that give the press greater access than they enjoy in many other states. And so it is perfectly fair to encounter people on the ground there that are stressed to the max by COVID because there isn't enough coverage, because people can't get childcare or can't get elder care. And they're presented with new laws in a new state that give people more license than they're accustomed to.
Yeah, we had to educate a couple of people on the laws and regulations here in California. We were lucky enough that we did have a confrontation with 2 security guards that were members of the Forest Service. But the law enforcement officer was actually from Utah. He actually knew our laws better than they did. And he worked and acknowledged to them that, by the way, they do have access. The only restriction you guys have is you can't film injuries or bodies. That's not what we're there for. We don't want any of that.
And there wasn't any of that there.
There wasn't. We never even saw a guy stub his toe.
Yeah, everybody was very safe, and we didn't see anyone who appeared to be in direct danger or in a panic state at any time.
No,
everything was very controlled and calm and organized.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And the security individual that we spent a lot of time with was from far away as well, from Florida, I believe. So, we're all doing our best to communicate as humans and try to do the best work we can out here. And we're just going to keep getting better at it every time.
Yeah, we did end up, by the time they asked us to go back to the incident command post to discuss us, we already had enough footage that we were like, you know what, if they want to play hardball, we're just going to walk away because we have enough. But at the same time, we got to, educate them a little bit, because them removing us from the scene or sending us in requiring us to go with a public information officer is technically censoring us as media. So that is an issue, and that opens them up for a lawsuit. We're never going to press that. Never would. Again, I'd rather walk away than have that happen. But it is a reality that they need to understand, and just because they're out of state doesn't exempt them from that liability. So it's going to go ahead.
That brings up a whole nother topic in my mind, which I think is really important for us to get to, which is not everyone is prepared to do this in these kind of frontline scenarios. Now, I'm not going to brag too excessively, but we're very capable. We know the area extremely well, Dylan in particular.
Very well.
Has so much off-road driving experience that he can manage that vehicle, the very capable 4-wheel drive truck that we were in any conditions, and make it go anywhere he wants. He can throw it in reverse and reverse at high speed around curves to get off the road to make room for a bulldozer that's trying to get through or what have you. And, we were there in our work gear doing our best to keep our heads on swivels at all times. We're both hyper alert ADHD types. So for us together to work as a team the way we do after being together for 20 years gives us in many ways an edge in keeping ourselves safe in a situation I would not recommend most people try to get into, press or not.
We did also bring
I'd like to ask, being citizen journalists, you're not part of a media entity.
Technically we are.
So,
our own
YouTube.
Let me just clarify my question. What trappings, what regalia, what paraphernalia did you try to have on your person, include in your presentation to kind of give the professionalism of a journalist, though you're not part of a specific media corporation company?
So what I would say is we brought, as far as impressing them, we had fluorescent vests that said press front and back. We actually purchased professionally made press cards. We didn't laminate them ourselves and just make something. We had professional ones made with a link to our website, with a QR code to our website, a disclaimer on the back that says we assume all responsibility. Not only that, we also brought other gear. We brought 2 days worth of food and water. We brought 2 shovels, or 2 different kinds of shovels, 2 of each, a Pulaski, which is an axe / pick, so you can dig trenches or chop wood, a chainsaw with tons of fuel, chain, and strap in case we were blocked and had to dig our way out either physically with the dirt or a downed tree. We brought all of that. We also had 2 ham radios with external antennas, so we could monitor 4 different frequencies at the same time, or broadcast a distress signal. Not that we ever want to, but we have that ability to reach out line of sight. I think it's about 45 miles. So we went above and beyond to make sure that we were as safe as possible, compliant as possible, and met the rules and regulations. One of the things that
we have an official company.
Yeah, we do
have
an
a real
official
website. We've been operating
Yes.
for some time doing this factual journalism work.
Yes.
So we didn't just like create an idea for a nothing thing and roll in with that. We've been working on this.
Don't do that. That'll actually get you
Sure.
in some trouble.
Being in the independent journalism world myself, I know that being able to drop an NBC, an ABC, a CNN, there's gravitas, there's reputation that you can rely upon that builds that credibility. We've got to use other tools to build our credibility, such as appearance, such as the paraphernalia, the tools of the trade that we have. So I think it's super shrewd and smart of you guys to play that game. You had mentioned, and I think listeners would be interested, and viewers, the ideas of the press passes being manipulated by people trying to cross national boundary checkpoints. Maybe you could tell us that story.
You want that one? Well, the first checkpoint we went through was on FH7. It's the west of I-5. And there was a Forest Service member staffed there, and it said road closed. When we pulled up, she made it very clear she wanted us to stop, and we did. She photographed our press passes.
Did you mean east?
We came in from the east but headed west.
Oh, right.
She stopped us, photographed our press passes, and asked us for a Forest Service forest order exemption permit. And we said, well, we don't have one. We've been calling, and we were told that just to stay away from the fire personnel and don't get hurt. Bring your pass and be professional. So we went up there. It's a 3.5-hour drive for us, so it was a big risk. I didn't like the idea of going up there blind, if you will, but we did it. And she went off and made some phone call and came back, and she said, "All right, well, when do you think you're going to be back?" And we said, she says, 2 hours, 3 hours before dark. I don't know, because we know the forest extremely well, and we had a list of places that we wanted to go because there's different parts of our backyard, the Mendocino National Forest being our backyard. We wanted to visit those spots. So we started checking off the list. Board tree, when we got there, we noticed a little flame underneath some unburnt canopy. We turned around and left. We were gone. I mean, we were out of there fast. Whereas we kept going, and we'd see a stump here and a stump there, not a big deal. So that checkpoint was not too bad, but she did run the credentials. They did look us up. They didn't actually run our credentials at Lake Pillsbury until after we had been there for a while, and the law enforcement officer and the 2 security guards pulled us off scene, which is not technically legal, to investigate who we were. And they did check the QR code. They did look us up.
And photograph both of our
and
IDs.
photographed both of our driver's licenses,
And
which we were totally willing to do. Yeah, absolutely. Here you go. And here's a business card. You want a flyer? Like, I'll give you anything you want. Like, we've got flyers proving our company. We've got everything. And that was when they checked our ID. And after running it, he said that, okay, well, we're going to let you go back in there, but you need a public information officer to go with you. Downside is there isn't one available for 3 to 4 hours. Good news is I just deputized her. I forget her name. I'm not pointing at Pepper.
Yeah, we're not
this other lady. You've got her till 5 o'clock. She's going to lead you in. And so we were unfortunately censored because we had to follow her and only allowed to photograph from where she said of what she said.
But by that time, she was very friendly and receptive to our ideas.
Once we had a chance to all talk and calm down, because I was also starving and on adrenaline big time, like just pumped. I was ready for a fight. I had all the documentation for press rights, like case law, everything in the truck, but I never pulled it out because I didn't want that fight. But once we got back over there and got a chance to kind of get to know each other, the whole tone changed completely. On the way out, we shut off our cameras, and I think we talked to her for like 10 or 15 minutes as people, just people. And then once we departed away or split ways with her, we went back and we ran into the law enforcement officer. We talked with him for like 15 minutes, and then next thing we know, now we know how to go get jobs doing this kind of stuff. Well, like get the red card.
We got some referrals.
Yeah, so now I'm a licensed drone pilot, commercial drone pilot. Now I know where I can go apply to help out BLM and the National Forest. Not only that, now I know how to work what class I need to take so that we can get our red card and become fire certified and start hauling gear. I don't really have a big interest in being on the front lines like fighting the fire, but I love driving my truck and our truck, and we can haul a ton of stuff in that thing. And a ton is an understatement. I would love to get paid to haul fire hoses or Gatorades, water up and through my backyard. Yeah, any day. So now I've signed up for the basic 32 class through the Mendocino National Forest to get my basic red card. Now we know the websites that we can apply for to become subcontractors for the National Forest Service to haul gear or to be a commercial drone pilot. There's all kinds of openings. It's not done through the Forest Service. Now we have those notes and we're going to apply because why not? We need to do our part, especially with COVID. One of the things that they was pointing out, and I think Pepper alluded to it, is that we have the staff. Problem is the staff can't find babysitters that can watch their kids for 3 days straight.
That's what they're telling us.
Or watch their house or watch their dog. Because of COVID, all the regulations, they just can't do it. So we have lots of personnel. We just don't have access to them. That's part of the problem. And we heard that from a couple of people.
Those fake press passes.
I was going to say, we need to get to that. We need to talk about that. This is when we had the conversation about why these security people were so keyed up when they saw us walking around on the site and realized we were there without a PIO and without a specific forest order exemption permit.
Yeah. And for viewership clarity, those fake passes are not Dylan's or Pepper's here.
No, they were very clear with us when they saw our real press passes. They recognized those as legitimately made real press passes. However, as it turns out,
they're in the truck.
There are some people
who are
trying to get in with the words press written on a 3x5 index card or printed on a 3x5 index card from their printer, and they're laminating their own handwritten whatever stuff to try to get in because either they're growers or they're trying to get to somebody's crop, or they're trying to check on,
or loot somebody's crop. They're doing anything they can to get inside. And he did mention that I think he said they were hot gluing or taping with Scotch tape their photograph on their press pass. Which, if you look up the definition of a press pass, there really isn't an official one. So that's where it's hard for them to determine who's allowed and who's not. So having an actual company or a YouTube channel that does launch consistent videos and having all the gear definitely makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Because they did come up hot and heated. My understanding is the majority of the arrests that have been made in the closure area is because of pot growers.
Well, and reporting in Mendocino County, part of the Emerald Triangle, always, I need to navigate the legal versus illegal world. And I know that Mendocino County and Humboldt County, I can't speak to Lake County or Trinity, have given green light to, pun intended, legal cannabis growers to be able to actually go to their crops, even within different types of BLM, private land, even national forest land, if they have arrangements to legally grow in these places. It sounds like these individuals might have illegally been trying to do these incursions. It's just an interesting part of reporting in the Emerald Triangle is navigating those worlds of the legal and illegal market. And it sounds like the press passes you guys generated were legit. They look legit enough. And as you stated, there's this gray area, and in California, disaster areas are open to press.
Yep.
And it does sound like that can be a gray area that can be taken advantage of.
It is open, but they can, the restrictions they can impose would be, is your efforts can't affect the firefighting personnel. That's the restriction. You do that, you're out.
Sure.
So, that's the one restriction they give you.
Did you ever, in your experience out there, did you find yourself getting eyeballed? Did you have to take some steps back?
I did.
Were you monitoring that?
I was eyeballed a bit for when I was down on a dozer line. They were keeping an eye on me. I was on the far backside. And then as I walked a little further in, the guy said, I can't make you go, but I'm a little uncomfortable. I said, not a problem. I'm going back over where I was. Not a problem at all. And I turned around and I walked way back over the other direction.
Yeah, as citizen journalists, it's important that we really work with, not not at cross purposes with these sort of personnel, with them, gain their trust. As that trust is gained, a working relationship is gained. So I'm I'm feeling some shared sentiments and approach as you describe your work out there, my work with MendoFever. I'm curious, what can you tell viewers about how you fund these efforts? Because I'm sure it's not cheap. This is a Tuesday. That's normally a work day for most humans. How are you and Pepper funding your excursions into the August complex?
So we're both self-employed. We both provide different aspects of our relationship to help things out. Pepper's mostly our full-time editor and videographer. I go out and I'll swing a hammer doing construction work for the most part to earn some money here and there. We're head over heels into this, literally. Like we're working probably 80, 90 hours together a week on this YouTube and this news and all this stuff. What we do for income right now, it's basically credit cards to fund this stuff. In the meantime, we do have Patreon. We do have a page on there so people can help donate money, $2 a month, $5 a month. There's lots of different tiers depending on what you want from us. And we do have a few patrons that brings us a little bit of money. I think we get about enough for about a quarter tank of gas, fuel in our truck. So that's how we fund ourselves currently, but I wouldn't say it's fully funded. We push Patreon pretty hard because we want to bring more content more often, more places.
And if you haven't heard of Patreon before, just to be clear, it's a little bit like Kickstarter, but it's for ongoing support. So instead of coming to Patreon and saying, we want to give you a little chunk of money to get you going, it'd be almost like becoming a subscriber to our channel. So, you pay what you think is fair based on the different tiers we have, and you just help support us while we produce the beautiful videos and stuff that we just keep doing.
The bonus to having the Patreon also though is you get pictures and other content that you don't get from us anywhere else. Also, if you're one of the higher tiers, every time we go out and we find a place we like, we take the GPS coordinates and write them down. So everywhere we've been that we liked to take photographs, we liked swimming there, we liked camping there, we liked visiting there, we liked this turn, beware of this, here's the nearest hospital. We have about 120 different waypoints available as an overlay for Google Earth, Onyx Hunt, Gaia, and Avenza maps that you can buy from us. And every month we update it with more pins. And then when you go in the forest, you can go, hey, we're right next to this spot. He says it's a great spot for pictures. Let's go over there. Or let's go over to that spot. And then before you go, you can even, some of them actually have a link to our YouTube video. You can actually watch a video of that spot made by us. So that's what we're doing to try and bring in some income while giving back to the viewers is through Patreon.
Well, being an independent journalism entity myself, I understand the challenge of being shrewd with our time, but also earnest with our efforts and hoping someday those will actually be monetized. Someday.
Yeah, someday. In the meantime, we love doing what we're doing, and we're going to continue to do it. But we could do more of it, if that makes sense.
Well, put your passion forward, and the monetization comes after. That's one of my grand lessons in the independent journalism game.
Right.
Is it my understanding that Mendocino County listeners might be able to hear you tell your story on KZYX tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow morning. I'm not sure if it's a live interview, but it's at 9:30 a.m. I spoke with her today. There's also the possibility, she said, was saying that there's might be a journalist from the Press Democrat joining also, because that journalist covered a lot of local news in Covelo, which we did talk about quite a bit, because Covelo and their information and gathering and that was a debacle. It was not good. Yeah, I'm going on live tomorrow morning, and I'm excited to share as much as I can, because I know I'm not the only one, and I know Pepper's not the other one that is concerned about what's going on, or just plain curious, like what's going on. Because again, burn map doesn't tell you if it's still there or not. It just tells you the fire went through there. Well, we're going to do our best to tell you as much detail as we can, what survived, what didn't, how the fire came through, the different behaviors, whatever we can learn from these different personnel, we're going to bring it to you. I even did a vlog inside of that bulldozer you were just watching. I'd run bulldozers, I've run excavators and all kinds of equipment. I'd never been in a fire bulldozer, and I didn't know there was a difference. There is. They have things on there that no other bulldozers have.
Well, and for viewers' clarity, if you wanted to tune in and hear Dylan tell his story tomorrow on KZYX, 88.1 in Fort Bragg, 90.7 in Philo, and 91.5 in Willits and Ukiah, you'll be able to potentially hear that if it is in fact live. But usually in radio, when they schedule a specific 9:30 thing, that means the thing is going live. So that's exciting. I'm excited to hear that your spread across Mendocino County is getting more attention, and your willingness to go into the backcountry is getting celebrated by more entities.
Yeah, we're going to keep going, and we are glad to share. If there's another news organization that happens to be watching and you want us to come on, we're glad to, love to. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to be able to collaborate and host you guys and provide you an outlet as humble as mine is. If you feel as if you've been...
Can I
absolutely
add something? So I have a request, and then let the viewers know also. The request, Matt, would be, can you, when we're done with this live stream, send me those frequencies via email, and I will add them to the description so viewers later on can look at that. Sure. Already within the description are some links that I find important when I'm trying to find information about what's going on there. So if you scroll down towards the bottom, you'll find a link to our Patreon, but you'll also find a link to an app online that you can get for your phone or your computer that'll tell you wind forecasts, current or a week out, a hotspot finder so you can tell where the fire is really active, not active at all, or kind of in the middle. There's links such as that. Also, Facebook, Mendocino National Forest website, or Facebook and their website. So if you want content from them, those are perfect places to go for how much acreage is burned, how many bulldozers are on site. Those are already in the description. So yeah, Matt, if you give me those frequencies, that would be fantastic. I'll toss them in and people can find them that way.
No problem. And maybe consider adding MendoFever.com as a great place.
Absolutely. Send it along. I'll put it all in there. Actually, I did put a hashtag of MendoFever in this already.
That's awesome. We appreciate any support, my friend. It's a symbiotic organism, and that's, that's independent news entities. I think there's in some instincts there's a competitive headspace, but in these savage vistas of the Emerald Triangle like we live in, it's important that we're sharing and collaborating, and I really appreciate your spirit in it. I'd love an opportunity, and this is just a direct call out to any viewers out there. If you guys have any questions for Dylan, for Pepper, for me, if you have any ideas in terms of coverage, if you have any thoughts in terms of approach, I'm sure Dylan and Pepper would love your input. That being said, is there any other messaging, any other essential information, any other plans in your future that you would like to tell the viewers about?
So if I had my way, the next, you asking about like locations kind of thing, or? Sure,
yeah, maybe where we can expect the next coverage from.
We've got a whiteboard with a list that we've collaborated with different viewers on YouTube, posts on Facebook and Patreon to establish what are you curious about? What part of the forest do you want to visit? Currently, what's remaining on the list would be Anthony Peak, Howard Lake, Board Tree Campground, because we weren't able to enter it because we felt unsafe, Black Butte, the summit, not the store, Hammerhorn Lake, and Ocean View. Those are currently the most requested places for us to go visit. And we, as far as I know, the majority of those are now downgraded to patrol status. They're going to be like basically smoking stumps here and there. But if somebody has a request other than houses, that's not our forte. Locations within the forest as far as campgrounds or dispersed camping, you're welcome to send us a message and we'll put it up for consideration. The best means that we check most frequently and the easiest way to get it across would be use the Patreon link down on the bottom and you can send us a message through that. And you don't have to be a subscriber to send us a message through there. You can.
Sure.
Yeah, ask your questions or make your suggestions right now live. Anybody could jump in the chat.
So yeah, we do have plans to keep going back, but right now we're on this standby while we're waiting for a reply from, I won't say the name, but really high up on the PIO list. We're waiting for a reply back from our letter for more access and unrestricted access. So stay tuned for that one. But even if hypothetically they don't give it to us, we have some amazing content about to come. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, because you're going to be seeing interviews with you're going to see this gentleman here operating that bulldozer and talking about it. You're going to be seeing an interview with the guy that the firing boss that drops the little balls to start the backfires and helicopters.
The person we spoke to identified himself as the qualified operator.
There you go.
He looked very Top Gun, like ready to fly, clean-cut American boy with a very nice way of succinctly describing the continuous ignition sources. It's very good material. You're gonna love it. I really wish we could have at least put them up on the screen for us today.
Yeah, we have copious amounts of footage. We've already released 8 episodes of the journey from I-5 to Plesket Meadows. We've already got 8 episodes there.
Eastern half, yeah.
Yeah, so from Plesket Meadows east, we've covered that. On FH7, we did not divert down any end roads.
That would have not have been safe.
Because the roads are narrower, they're not as clean. It's even though we know them really well and which ones go around, like 22 and 11, we can pick up at one end of FH7, it circles back to another portion. But it's limited. The road is really rough, so we stuck to FH7, which you can drive. I don't ever drive fast in the forest, but if you had to run quickly, that's a good road to be on.
Are there intentions to visit Humboldt County so you can get kind of the northern reaches of the August Complex?
Yeah. More specifically, what portions?
I know that it's starting. It's across the Laytonville is like the nearest Mendocino County
I know Laytonville.
residence, and then pretty quickly after that you hit the Humboldt County line. So there were incursions of the fire sort of across that line, and then Island Mountain was specifically getting hit. That's grower country, but also an interesting almost trifecta corner of Trinity County, Humboldt, and Mendocino County, and that's in the August Complex. I mean, it's the size of the state of Rhode Island, so pretty much anything northeast of here is gonna fall in line.
My understanding,
and that could just open up a new audience doing the Humboldt County coverage for you guys.
Sounds great. I'm completely open to that. My understanding is that the remaining hottest spot, the biggest portions of the fire burning right now, is up in the north end of the burn zone. A lot of the east side, the south side, the west side is looking really good at this point. It's the northern end where you're in the wilderness, where there's no way to really access it but from the air, where you have to do, I guess, there's smoke jumpers and air attack. That's all they got. But air attack needs feet on the ground. They don't just blindly drop retardant on the ground. There's a procedure before a drop, there's coordination of the drop, and then there's work after the drop. And if you don't have boots on the ground, it's at this point it's kind of a matter of more managing the fire and just hoping for the best, and then doing structure protection. I think you posted a picture this morning with a link, or talking about the show tonight, where it shows a couple of houses on one ridge line and everything behind it is black.
Wow. Well, and it's my understanding that currently the big fight up north is to hold back flames from Highway 36, which is a main thoroughfare between Humboldt County and then basically the I-5. That's how a lot of transportation is happening up there. So as you stated, that north is still burning, and weather reports are indicating that there might be a potential hot, dry, high winds at higher elevations coming up this next weekend. So that's, we're not necessarily having weather that's cooperating with the fight here, and it's hundreds of miles of lines to bolster. I mean, the actual implementation of firefighting strategies is, I don't think we've had anything of this scope. I mean, we haven't. This is a record-breaking size. So as we put out the call for questions. I'm not seeing any filtering in. We might have some filter in later after we go off live. Here we are, almost an hour deep into the conversation with Dylan and Pepper about their voyage and sojourn into the Lake Pillsbury Basin. I look forward to the opportunity to seeing the content in full. I look forward to the opportunity to hear you on KZYX tomorrow morning, 9:30, talking about your experiences out there. You know, you paint a picture even with words, so the listeners won't miss out.
Yeah, my understanding is it's going to be a completely different interview going after she has different topics she wants to cover than we're doing now. So that'll be interesting. The other thing I almost forgot, if you want to see some of the images we've already post-processed, you can go to 500px Dylan Penco. And then in there's a folder called August Complex Fire. Go in there and you'll see out of the thousands of photographs, you'll see the ones that personally made me go, I like that one, and I uploaded it. We're going to be uploading in the next couple of days to Patreon first, this next round of photographs from Lake Pillsbury. And then after that, they'll go on to 500px.
And we're going to get busy buying some fire-resistant clothing because sadly, as you're saying, you know, records keep getting broken in these wildland fires. So we are prepared to continue long into the future with our best possible, safest methods of getting in and getting the stories.
Yeah, that's a huge investment, though. We're going to be... Yeah, the credit card's going to get real heavy after that buy. I had no idea how expensive that stuff is.
If any viewers or listeners appreciate the spirit of adventure and documentation that Dylan and Pepper are bringing to the table, maybe you can help them out with these fire retardant clothing. Besides just looking awesome, they'll be able to be safe out there. And I want to remind tomorrow, 9:30, 88.1 Fort Bragg, 90.7 in Philo, and 91.5 Willits and Ukiah. You'll be able to hear Dylan speak of his experience out there in that backcountry. And I want to commend you for your savage nature, and I want you to be safe and continue being safe and continue representing citizen journalism. This is the way we got to document our wild world that we live in.
Yeah, and ever-changing. Oh, yeah. Again, hit the subscribe button because there's a lot of content that's going to be coming out in the next few days. It's really exciting, really cool, and some of the stuff I've never seen. I've never seen a video of a guy running a bulldozer for his first time.
Thank you so much for bringing us into the fold and, you know, sharing this space with us to talk about this. We really appreciate the experience you have with this independent lifestyle journalism, and yeah, we appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Pepper. Collaboration is the way to make this happen, guys. Absolutely. So keep me in the loop on the next voyage. I think the north might be where it's at right now. I think you're right.
For sure.
Yeah, so stay tuned because we're in limbo at this point until we hear back from the Forest Service, because we do not want to be those people that make the evening news.
So when we get that call, we're going to move fast.
Very fast. So stay tuned.
It's my understanding you have another live feed this evening. Do you want to take a moment to tell viewers?
8 o'clock. I start another live stream, and the beginning of the live stream is going to be similar to what we're doing here. I'm going to be showing some stuff and talking a little bit, and then at 8:30, Overland Trail Guides is coming on. Ben is going to be talking about what they do. They have a website where if you're curious about going off-roading, they have free maps you can or free routes you can download. And so if I'm curious about this section here, you can download a route that's ready to go and you can follow. And they've got them all over the continental United States. So if you want to go to Utah, but you don't know Utah, you can go to their website and download a map or a route. Check this out. This is the one we love the most. So that'll be kind of an interesting story. Me, I do locations. I've never thought about doing routes. It's a really good idea.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to further collaboration regarding your coverage of the August Complex, and applaud your industrious nature, Dylan and Pepper. Keep it up. And please, if viewers appreciate what they're bringing to the table, get that Patreon going, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. You know what to do.
Yay!
Right.
Thanks,
on.
guys.
Well, at this point, how about we end the live stream? Matt, you want to hold on for just a moment? And
sure.